Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, Assalamu alaikum. In the last class, we talked about the sequence diagram. We studied the basics of sequence diagram, the basic notations, and few examples of the sequence diagram. Today, we will study more notations for the sequence diagram and little bit complex sequence diagrams. So let's start. So along with the other messages that we have seen, we have another message that is create message. Create message is a kind of message that represents the instantiation of target lifeline. So that means if we send a create message, it creates an in fact another object and it gets alive, and then we can deal with it, we can send more messages to it, we can ask is it to perform something or process something and send us the reply. So in fact the create message in fact is to start something with other object. Participant creation message. Objects do not necessarily live for the entire duration of the sequence of events. So that means, in fact, this object will not remain for all the time. And similarly, when these two objects, one and two, were talking to each other, sending and receiving the messages from each other, object 3 was not there at that time. So after some time, object 1 created the participant 3, that is object 3. So it says that the objects do not necessarily live for the entire duration of the sequence of events. Objects or participants can be created according to the message that is being sent. So we have studied the create message. So this create message in fact initiated over here with object 3, and now we can see that it is little bit below from the other or at the lower level from the other objects. That means it started from here. So this is the way we can draw our diagram or the sequence diagram to make it more meaningful. So the drop participant box notation can be used when you need to show that the particular participant did not exist until the create call was sent. So here we can see that in fact this is the object that was not there over here until we send the create message for this. If the created participant does something immediately after its creation, you should add an activation box right below the participant box. So if we think that it has been created and it has to do something, we will draw over here an activation bar like these bars, like this bar and this bar. These two bars, we will draw another bar that will describe that object 3 has been created and it is performing something, right? It is doing something. So now here we can see it very clearly that object 1 is exchanging the messages with object 2, but after some time, object 1 sends a create message to the object 3 so that the transfer of messages or receiving of messages or some exchange of messages could be done with the object number 3. Destroy message. Again, an object does not stay or it lives for long, right? Till the time we need it, we just keep it there, or we can just remove when its job is done. So, destroy message is a kind of message that represents the request of destroying the life cycle of target lifeline. So, this was some object and it was its lifeline. So this message that we send destroy, in fact, it just completed or it just destroyed that particular target lifeline. So it is no more here. After this, it will not work. So now if we check the participant destruction, so we can say that object 1 and object 2 were talking. They were exchanging the messages. Then create command or create message sent by the object 1 created the object 3, and then object 1 sent destroy message for the object 2, so its lifeline is no more. and then the object one sent another destroy message to object three. So in fact, in this manner, they divide the or they destroy the lifelines. So now here is the home activity. In fact, you will have to design a use case for a student uh, or course online system. It is a typo. So here must be for a student course registration system to use Google Classroom and draw a sequence. I'm sorry. Design a use case for a student to use Google Classroom and draw a sequence diagram by consulting the article, right? So this will be your homework, and you will have to draw this sequence diagram, and you can take help from the following website, and it guides you very well, and you can draw the diagram easily. So again, I repeat, it was some misunderstanding, or I could not read it fine. So design a use case for a student to use Google Classroom and draw a sequence. So you will have to write down a use case for a student to use Google Classroom, and then from that you will have to draw a sequence diagram. So you will have to do this and submit in the next class. And here is another self message. In fact, self message is something in which that particular message is sent to itself, right? The object is sending to itself. The self message is a kind of message that represents the invocation of message of the same lifeline. So it has been sent to the same lifeline. Recursive message. In fact, recursive message is a kind of message that represents the invocation of message of the same lifeline. Its target points to an activation on top of the activation. Look, this is one activation and it targets to another activation on top of that activation, and that describes it as a recursive message. Duration message. Duration message shows the distance between the two times instance for a message invocation. So you can see that it is not a straight line. So it is telling us the time taken to send that message, or the time taken by the message to reach to the other object. Note. A comment gives the ability to attach various remarks to elements. So note is something through which we can apply the comment. A comment carries no semantic force but may contain information that is useful to a modeler. So it is not for something for that particular diagram that it will do something in it, but it is for the modeler, the designer, who will get the comments from this particular node. So the sequence diagram example below shows the interaction between a user and a ticket booking system. Now we will check that how the user asks for the route, then books for the seat, and how system replies. So check it out. Look, here is the actor, that is user. Here is our user interface. Here is main controller. As I told you, we do not use the control symbol, and instead of that, we use the rectangles along with this text, right? Then the routes and route list, then the route, right? So now what happens? A customer or user enters the date and the destination and from where he wants to travel to the user interface of the software. Then he clicks the search button. This message goes to the main controller. So now here the system takes this value and it searches that and it sends that to the route list. So from the route list, it gets the route for that particular date, and from that place to the destination. And then it gets the route details as well. It sends it to the controller, and controller sends it to the route detail, right? So from here, get the route details, and meanwhile, it shows the route details to this one, right? So that means here, as I told you earlier, it replied, it sent back the answer. That was the route details. So those route details that were sent to the controller, now those has been sent to the user interface from where user can see those, and then so that means as we studied in the case of synchronous messages, there is no need to show these. But what I say is we must show those. So it got the answer, the user got the details. Now he selects the seat, he clicks the booking button or book button, then it goes to the controller, then controller checks or verifies the details from itself. Look, it is in fact now we have got the self message. Then when it is verified, it sends this all these details for the booking to the route system, and here it has been booked. Now it will answer or reply to the controller that successfully booked. The controller sends the message success screen to the UI, and it is shown to the user. So this is another example. So from this example, you can get an idea that how you can create a little bit complex sequence diagram, and you can study more from the book. I have given you the example from the book. Now these are from the website, and now you will have to explore more, study more use cases so that you may come up with a better understanding of the sequence diagram. Although it is very simple, but you need to learn more. You will have to try more to understand it in a better way. So, in fact, this is all about today's lecture. Now, your assignment is you will have to draw a complete sequence diagram. In the last class, we had the basic notations, basic symbols. So, I asked you to develop or to draw a simple sequence diagram. Now we have studied more symbols. So now try to make a complete sequence diagram for your class project. Thank you very much. Assalamu